Today we're taking a look at the things you can do if you've been contacted about a debt by Churchill Recovery Solutions, also known as Churchill Recovery Debt Collectors. We're getting all of this information straight from my article on MoneyNerd.co.uk, which I'll link in the description. Just to be clear, I'm not a financial advisor, I don't give financial advice, I'm just making sure you have access to the information that you need so you can make an informed decision. Now, you've probably received a letter from Churchill Recovery or even had them knocking at your door. When I had debt collectors chasing me back in 2010, it caused me a lot of stress and anxiety, and to be honest, plenty of sleepless nights. But since then, I've worked in the credit card industry for over 10 years, and I'm happy to say that I've been able to use the information that's contained in this video to become debt-free. So today, I'd like to answer 5 frequently asked questions, like, are Churchill Recovery debt collectors even legitimate? How to reduce your repayment amounts? How to stop Churchill Recovery from contacting you, what happens if you ignore them, and what they're not allowed to do when they're collecting your debt. So question number 1 is, are Churchill Debt Recovery Solutions even legitimate? If you've received a letter from them in the post, this is probably your first question. If you don't recognise the company name, it might be that they've purchased your debt, or they're a debt collector collecting on behalf of another company. I can confirm that Churchill Recovery Limited is a UK registered company, and whilst there are a bunch of scams out there when it comes to debt collectors, I'm afraid this is unlikely to be a scam. However, you should never pay unless you're certain that the debt is yours. You're well within your rights to ask Churchill Recovery to provide proof that the debt is yours. Now, I've got a free letter template that you can use to do that, to confirm how much you owe and to confirm that the debt is actually yours. It's totally free, and I'll link that in the description below. Question number 2, what happens if you ignore Churchill Recovery debt collectors? Well, if you ignore debt collectors, your problem could escalate and become very serious. Churchill Recovery does have the right to take court action against you. And if you were to ignore court letters, you could end up with a county court judgment, which could have a major impact on your credit score and your chances of borrowing money in the future. If you do get a county court judgment and you still don't pay, this could ultimately result in bailiffs coming to your home to take your valuable items or even your car. There's a big difference between having a debt collector like Churchill Recovery chasing you and having bailiffs or enforcement agents coming to your home. So I can't urge you enough, now's the time to take action on your debt while there's still options available to you. So please don't ignore Churchill Recovery, and we'll get to what you should do later in this video. Question number 3, what are the rules that Churchill Recovery have to follow? Well, despite being legally appointed to collect your debt or outright owning your debt, there's several things that Churchill Recovery can't do when it comes to collecting debts. Knowing what Churchill Recovery can and can't do will make you feel a lot more comfortable and confident when dealing with them. So here's the things they're legally not allowed to do. They're not allowed to visit your place of work without you giving them specific permission to do so. Before this rule was in place, some debt collectors would show up while you're working and try and make things awkward for you as ways sort of pressuring you into paying. And on a similar note, they can't speak to neighbours, friends or family about your debt. Again, this has stopped them to trying to embarrass you or shame you into paying your debt. Churchill Recovery can't contact you or visit your home at unreasonable times of the day. For phone calls, most people would agree that calls before 8 AM are too early and calls after 9 PM are too late. But your circumstances might be different, for example if you work night shifts. If you can't take calls during certain times, then tell them. They should keep a record of this and avoid calling you during these times. And by the way, for home visits, the regulations say that debt collectors need to clearly explain the purpose and the intended outcome of the proposed visit, and they need to give you adequate notice of the date and the likely time of the visit. You're well within your rights to complain if they keep calling you or visiting your home at times you told them to avoid. Next, it's also good to know they're not allowed to act in a threatening or intimidating way. Also, they should never pressurise you into paying larger instalments than you can afford or hitting payment deadlines that are impossible. The regulations also say that they're not allowed to pressurise you into selling your home or to take out more credit to pay your debts. It's also good to know that debt collectors can't pretend to be bailiffs or enforcement agents. Unlike bailiffs, debt collectors can't force their way into your house, and they can't refuse to leave if you ask them to. And they're certainly not allowed to take any of your belongings or clamp your car. Question number 4, how long can you be chased for debt? Under the Limitation Act of 1980, a creditor has 6 years to chase most unsecured unpaid debts, or 12 years for some mortgage debts. This limitation period starts from your last payment or when you last acknowledged the debt. Ultimately, debt collectors can't enforce their debts through the courts after 6 years, But if you've already been taken to court and have a county court judgment registered against you, then unfortunately there's no end date for how long you can be chased. Question number 5, how do I pay less and come to an agreement with Churchill Recovery? Well, there's a number of ways you might be able to reduce the amount you repay. If Churchill Recovery are adding interest and charges to your debt, you could ask them to freeze them to help you get back on track and clear your debts quicker. Debt collectors are more likely to stop or reduce interest and charges if you can prove that you're in financial difficulties. You could put together a budget showing your income and essential living costs so you can clearly demonstrate that you are in financial difficulties. You can also use that same budget to negotiate reduced payments. Again, for this you'll need to show why you can't afford high repayments, so make sure that you're showing your income and essential living costs so you can clearly demonstrate what you can afford. Sometimes debt collectors will only agree to reduce payments for a short period of time. At the end of this period, they'll want an update on your situation. Other times, they'll agree to much longer repayment periods, but all of this will totally depend on the nature of your debt and your individual circumstances. If you have the cash, you could make a full and final settlement offer. This is where you ask them if they'll accept a lump sum payment instead of the full balance that's remaining on the debt. And some debt collectors will agree to write off the remainder of the debt if you provide that lump sum payment. These are not the only options that are available in the UK when it comes to debt solutions. There's a bunch of others. There's some free debt solutions, there's some paid debt solutions. Each of them have their pros and cons. If you want to learn more about debt solutions that I mentioned in this video, or some of the other debt solutions that I didn't mention in this video, then you can check out my website, which I'll link in the description.